And we are live in 5, 4, 3. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Juan Morales. I am the Senior Staff Field Application Engineer for SmartHQ service at GE Appliances. It is a pleasure to be with each and every one of you today, and we welcome you to this YouTube live training event in which we will demonstrate how to utilize the SmartHQ service application to help you diagnose and repair GE appliance products. Now, we are really excited because not only are we presenting the SmartHQ service tool, but we are coming to you live from Same Day Appliance Repair Academy USA here in beautiful sunny Houston, Texas. So I want to send a big thank you to Caricia and Osvaldo Marroquin, who will be joining us a little bit later on, for allowing us to conduct this training at their wonderful facility. All right, my friends, so let's go ahead and quickly get started because we do have a lot of material to cover in this short hour. And the first thing we're going to cover is going to be our agenda. But before we do that, I want to quickly mention that we do have a website, and that website is smarthqservice.com. And you can also give us a call anytime, any day at 502-714-2029. In addition to that, we do have a YouTube channel, so you can visit our YouTube channel. Simply type in SmartHQ service into the YouTube search bar, and you will be able to get information regarding the application, mostly in the form of training videos. So we're going to show you step-by-step how to take advantage of some of the most exciting features that SmartHQ service has to offer. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about our agenda so that everyone knows what you will be learning today. So first, we're going to cover the dashboard screen and service documentation. And this is essentially going to tell you the state of the appliance. Then we're going to get into the real-time execution of diagnostics, right? So activating components or checking to see, for example, what the temperature values are internally in a refrigerator, things of that nature. We'll also talk about the post-repair functionality verification function, which essentially will diagnose a subsystem made up of several components on any given appliance. We'll also show you how to look up parts, right? So once you diagnose your unit and you want to find out exactly what's going on with it, you can take a look at the parts section, and that will tell you what's happening. We'll also talk about the cycle history feature, primarily to help you improve your first-time completion rate. And the way we're going to do that is you're going to be able to see exactly how the customer has been utilizing the appliance, and if they've had any, for example, if they've left the doors open on the refrigerator, or maybe selected the wrong cycle on their washer or dishwasher. So you're going to be able to see all that. And finally, we're going to close it off by talking about firmware updates. And this is going to be one of the key features that is going to help you with your first-time completion rate, because many times you can actually complete a repair in a single service visit. Okay, my friends? So again, we have a jam-packed show for you today in this short hour. And let's go ahead and go to our first topic of the day, and that is going to be the dashboard screen. But before we do that, I know some of you out there in the audience are not familiar with the system, so I just want to quickly describe how SmartHQ service works. So what you're looking at right now in the PowerPoint is in the middle of your screen, there is a Bluetooth module. And that essentially is what is going to connect or allow you to connect your mobile device via Bluetooth to the appliance. So all you really need to do is connect an RJ45 cable from the Bluetooth module to the appliance. And the port is typically located in a very accessible location. So in the case of French door refrigerators, it is located right behind the top middle cover. So there is absolutely no disassembly for you to have to do. And once you do that, you will be able to diagnose the unit. So like this technician is checking the compressor, you're also going to be able to do things like that. Now, in addition to that, we will also give you access to cloud-based service documentation, which will, of course, be in the form of things like schematic diagrams, service bulletins, training bulletins, and much, much more. So that, in effect, my friends, is how the system connects. And now let's go ahead and talk about the first topic, which is the dashboard screen and service documentation. So as soon as you connect SmartHQ service to the appliance, one of the first things you're going to see all the way at the top of your dashboard screen is if there is a firmware update available. And this is a great feature because there's no need for you to contact tech support. You don't have to look up any documentation. You have to go to the website to find out if there's an update available for the specific product you are servicing. This will immediately show up as soon as you open SmartHQ service. Now, we'll talk about firmware updates a little bit later on, but I just wanted to point out that this is part of the dashboard screen and part of the information that you'll see initially. Then below that is going to be your alert information, and alert information is almost like sort of like a heads up, right? So, you know, maybe sometimes you go to the customer's house and the refrigerator is not making ice, and I'm guilty of this myself. I've swapped out ice makers, main boards, adjusted clips, did all the funny stuff you have to do, only to find out that the customer shut off the ice maker, right? So the feature, the alert feature will sort of give you a heads up and say, for example, here it's saying the ice maker is turned off. Check to see if there is a no ice complaint. So it's a really wonderful part of the dashboard screen because it can prevent you from potentially replacing parts that you didn't have to replace to begin with. Below that is going to be the fault code information, and this is so powerful because, again, diagnostics are not simple, right? Especially if you are doing multiple manufacturers, if you're working with, you know, you're trying to get into service mode. For example, on this refrigerator, there's a few buttons that I need to press in order to be able to access the fault codes. But using SmartHQ service, as you can see right here, there's absolutely no need to press any key code sequence on the display. The fault codes are given to you right then and there. And we'll demonstrate on this fridge that we have here how you can actually see when the fault code occurred. And of course, last but not least, you will have access to model-specific service documentation. And what that means is that you don't have to search through the thousands of documents that are available on our website, our service website. All the information will be handed to you right on the application. All right, so that in effect is the dashboard screen. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to demonstrate by using the iPad here that I have connected. And for time purposes, I've already connected to this appliance. As you can see, my Bluetooth module is all set up here. The blue light is solid, indicating that I have Bluetooth connectivity between my mobile device and the module itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the screen over here, and I'll put myself in the upper corner just so that you see that everything that I'm doing is going on in real time. So right here, again, we've already connected to the appliance. All the way at the top, you can see that we have the model number and the serial number, and we have an update that is available for this machine. So the dashboard screen, right away, it gave us the information that we do have to perform an update on this unit. And we'll get into the update functionality a little bit later on and exactly how it works. As far as my alerts, I don't have any alerts, but it does tell me that my water filter has 7 days left on it, right? And if I were to click on that, you would actually be able to see how many gallons have been used, how many gallons are remaining. All of that information will be displayed right then and there. And of course, below, the fault codes are refreshing because every time that you go in and out of that screen, the fault codes will refresh themselves. And we can see we have a fan feedback missing. So it seems like there's a fan problem. We have abnormal defrost. So there's a bunch of fault codes, right? Now, again, if you didn't know what these codes meant, like an F106 or an F112, traditionally, you would have to phone a friend, right? Maybe you call TechLine or call your triage department in the office. But that can be time consuming, right? Especially during times of high volume when things are really busy. So using SmartHQ service, you can simply click on the fault codes, and every fault code will come up with a detailed description of exactly what the fault code means. But not only that, it'll also tell you how many days ago this fault code occurred. So you can see right here, we have an abnormal defrost situation that happened 1 day ago. We have on the fresh food fan, the feedback is missing. So I'm assuming that this fan is not spinning, which basically is pointing me in the direction of that area of the refrigerator. So the fault codes are extremely powerful. And of course, later on, we'll when we have the hands-on portion of the training, we'll be doing further diagnostics. Now, the document search below, right here, you can see that I have access to both my service manual and my mini manual. So if I wanted to get things like, for example, the wiring diagram or specifications on any given component, I can simply go ahead and zoom into these diagrams. And if I wanted to get, for example, what's the what's the resistance on a heater, right? Or for example, here the defrost. Let's see, this is the freezer defrost heater. What's the resistance? It's telling me that I should be getting approximately 32 ohms, and it's even giving me the color of the wires where I would be measuring that. So again, powerful information that normally you have to go on the website or try to download it from somewhere. It's all given to you right here. Now, the recent bulletins are also extremely important because these could potentially prevent you from having to go to the customer's house 2 times. And what I mean by that is this. If you become proactive and research the service bulletins before you go to your customer's home, let's just say, for example, this one right here, the one that says ice frost formation around the icebox door, right? Let's say your customer is saying, yeah, my icebox has a bunch of ice around it, or where the ice maker is, right around, there's a bunch of ice that's forming. Well, based on the service bulletin, right, it's telling you right here that you need to install this kit. So we give you the part number, and we give you also the repair procedure. So with this information, you can order the parts and then go to your customer's house. And what this is going to do is going to allow you to complete the repair in a single service visit, rather than going out first, diagnosing, and then having to come back a second time later on. And anytime you can do that, right? If you can improve your first time completion rate, you will dramatically lower the cost of operating your business, which in turn will make you much, much more profitable. So that is essentially what this tool is for. And we'll be talking about what other things you can, what other features you can leverage to help you do just that. So let's go back to our screen over here and sort of exit. And now we are going to get into our next topic, which is going to be the diagnostics. All right, so for that, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint over here. And what you're looking at right now is just a picture of a refrigerator and a screen capture of the watch box feature, which gives me all the internal temperature values of that specific unit. All right. Now, I'm going to actually go through this in detail a little bit later on, but just to give you an idea what these diagnostics can do for you. Okay, this is a refrigerator that, or in this example for a refrigerator, you don't have to open the doors to test your temperature. You don't have to pull the unit from its point of installation to go to the control board to check thermistors or ohm them out or anything like that. You can just connect SmartHQ service, and in seconds, all your values will be displayed. So rather than me showing it, let's show you a quick video of how this happens. Take a look. Behind me is a GE profile fridge, and one of the first things you'll notice is that I am going to keep the doors closed to ensure I obtain an accurate assessment of the situation. In other words, I want to find out exactly what's going on internally before taking anything apart. Now, typically, a service technician would have to remove the unit from its point of installation, gain access to the control board, and test each thermistor individually. And of course, how can we forget our good old friend, the infrared thermometer? These methods are often inaccurate, and even worse, they are extremely time-consuming. But using SmartHQ service, you will be able to instantly view the internal temperature values of every compartment. To get started, let's connect the Bluetooth module to the refrigerator's Ethernet port located behind the top middle cover. Now, open up the SmartHQ service app, and in moments, your device will connect to the appliance. You can now view product information, firmware update availability, recent bulletins, service manuals, and much more. Alrighty, my friends, and as you just saw, connecting SmartHQ service to the refrigerator was extremely simple, and it required no tools whatsoever. Now, let's go ahead and open up the watch box to view the internal temperature values and find out what's going on. From the dashboard screen, click Next. Click the menu button in the upper right-hand corner, and in seconds, every thermistor temperature value will be displayed.
including the ones closest to the evaporators. We can even see what the ambient temperature is to ensure the environment is adequate. Needless to say, the fresh food compartment is abnormally warm. However, the other compartments seem to be okay, which verifies the problem is isolated to the fresh food compartment. Just in case you're wondering, it is not 300 degrees in the freezer area as the ice maker thermistor tells us. The reason for this reading is because the optional second ice maker has not been installed by the customer, and SmartHQ service is detecting the absence of that thermistor.
All right, my friends, so there you have it. Extremely simple to not only connect your mobile device to the appliance, but also to gain access to the information related to all the thermistors. So again, if you take a look at the, if you paid close attention to the video, right, normally if you were a technician out there in the field, and I've done this myself, we take, our multimeter, we try to measure the resistance value of the thermistors, but then you have to convert it, you have to use a temperature chart, and that could be extremely time consuming. So what most technicians do, right, they bust out Mr. Infrared Thermometer and they begin to measure things internally. But keep one thing in mind, okay, that when you open the refrigerator door, it's not like you're opening the door to your house. It's literally like you are taking the roof or the entire side wall off of your home, and all that warm air that's outside is coming in, and of course, that's going to alter the temperature values. So that's the last thing you want to do is open the fridge doors, because at that point, you're not going to get accurate readings, all right? But again, with SmartHQ service, all the values will be displayed in Fahrenheit, and anything that is out of range, right, you will see it in red. Now, again, as the video mentioned, that freezer ice maker, the mold body thermistor, it's reading 300. That's simply reading an open circuit. That 300-degree value is an open circuit because in that specific refrigerator, right, that was a French refrigerator with a freezer at the bottom and an optional second ice maker. I didn't install it. So SmartHQ service is detecting that there's no thermistor there. It's basically detecting an open circuit, and it's saying, that it's 300 degrees. But it's not a problem necessarily in this case. However, if that thermistor or if that value in red was in the fresh food compartment or the freezer evaporator, then you definitely 100% have a problem, okay? So let's go ahead and switch over to this, to our screen over here, because we do want to show the live demonstration and show you exactly how that takes place. So what we have here, again, we are on our dashboard screen. We're gonna go ahead and hit next from there. And then we're going to press the little hamburger button at the upper right-hand corner, and that is going to pull up every thermistor value in this refrigerator. And the first thing that I'm looking at, take a look at this, my friends. If you look closely on the display, the fresh food thermistor is reading 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this refrigerator has been connected overnight, so it's been running. It should be cold by now, and you can see the rest of the thermistors are reading a relatively cool temperature. But unfortunately, there's a problem with that compartment. So there's something wrong with this fridge compartment. We're going to find out a little bit later on exactly what's going on. But I just wanted to show you how powerful this is, because look at this. I didn't have to open the refrigerator doors, and in Fahrenheit, I was able to see exactly all my thermistor temperature values. So if we go back to the screen over here, I can even see my ambient temperature. It is 72 degrees in this room, so it's relatively comfortable. And the humidity is only 35 degrees. So this is a very comfortable environment, very good environment for this refrigerator to be installed in. All right, so that's how you basically would get to that. And now the next topic that I want to talk about is the operate loads feature. All right, so once you diagnose your unit, right, we diagnosed it, we assessed the situation, and we found out that there's a problem in the fresh food compartment. Now we want to dig a little bit deeper and find out what's happening. So for that, we're going to leverage a feature called operate loads. And operate loads essentially is going to help you activate individual components. So for example, what we have here is fans. You can, in a refrigerator, right? You can activate the fans, the heaters, the compressor, the dispenser, the ice maker, all of that stuff you can turn on. And it's as easy as flipping on a light switch. Now, in addition to being able to activate the components and verify their functionality, you'll also be able to verify their performance. And what I mean by that is this. Just because a component is running, for example, a fan is spinning, doesn't mean that it is spinning at the speed that will allow the air to flow efficiently, right? It might be working, but you don't know if it's actually working to factory specification. So SmartHQ service is going to give you the information to see if it's actually working well or it's, it is not. So the other thing is that if you, for example, have an intermittent issue, let's say you have a customer out there that has some noise complaints, right? They're saying that there's an intermittent noise issue, and you know for a fact that the noise maybe is related to a component like, for example, a fan or something like that. You want to be able to test it and reproduce the symptom, because the last thing that you want to happen is you go to the customer's house and when you're there, the noise is not present. But of course, as soon as you leave, the noise comes back, and then the customer is going to call you back later on. So we want to try to avoid that and eliminate those situations. And that's what this example basically shows. This is a case of a customer that has a noise complaint, right? They're saying that they have some annoying rattling sound, that it happens every once in a while. But of course, when you get there, there's no problem at all. Everything is working to perfection. So with operate loads, you can actually activate the individual components. So in this case, we're going to activate the fans, right? So the first fan you would turn on, if we go down the line, it would be the freezer evap fan. And with the customer standing right next to you, he or she might be saying, no, that's not the noise. It's much, much louder than that, right? So then you go down the line and you activate that condenser fan. And when you turn it on, you start to get some kind of a rattling sound, right? And then at that point, the customer will say, yeah, that's exactly the sound that I've been hearing. And because you both were able to corroborate what the customer's symptom was, right? What the noise that he or she was hearing, now that customer knows that you are sure of what you're going to repair, right? And they're gonna really appreciate this, because again, if you can't reproduce this symptom, the customer might think that they're crazy. Like they might say, "What am I, crazy? I'm hearing things." But no, now you reproduce it for them, and now you were able to let them know that it's perfectly it's not perfectly good condition. I was going to say that, but that fan is the one that's causing the noise, and of course you're going to address the issue and take care of it right then and there. All right, so that is operate loads in a nutshell, and we're going to do the demonstration in a second on this refrigerator. But I want to go back over here real quick to our friend, right? So we had that refrigerator example before where the fresh food compartment was 56 degrees approximately. So now that you know what the problem is, we're going to use operate loads to see what could be causing it. Take a look.
The next thing I want to check is that the evaporator fan is operating correctly, because remember, without proper airflow, you won't have efficient cooling. Click Operate Loads. Enter service mode and select fans. Next, click all fans on to activate every fan motor in the refrigerator at high speed. In seconds, we should see an RPM reading coming from each fan, indicating proper motor operation. We can see RPM readings coming from the freezer and condenser fans. However, even though the control board is sending voltage to the fresh food fan, we are still getting 0 RPMs, which confirms we have a problem with that fan. Incidentally, you can also activate each fan individually in the event you are trying to isolate a noise complaint. Alrighty, my friends, and there you have it. SmartHQ service has helped us pinpoint the part that is causing the issue. And guess what? I never even open up the fridge doors. Of course, at this point, you may want to check for restrictions such as ice buildup or perhaps even a loose wire connection. In either case, SmartHQ service has pointed us in the right direction. And don't forget, this app works with both Android and iOS devices.
All right, so very important note right there, everybody. The app actually works with both Android and iOS devices. How cool is that, right? The fact that whatever system you're using, whatever phone you have already, you don't have to go out there and buy something else. You can keep your iPhone, you can keep your flip phone, whatever it is that you prefer. You can use a tablet like I'm using right now, or in this case, an iPad, and it will be compatible with your device. The other key takeaway I want you to remember is the fact that SmartHQ service will point you in the right direction, right? It'll tell you more or less what's happening. So again, this particular refrigerator, if we go back over here and show you the information, it's telling me that the fresh food thermistor, it's 54 degrees. So that's not cold, right? And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to operate loads. So we're simply going to hit operate loads over here. We're going to enter service mode by pressing the enter service mode button below. And what you're going to see is your screen is going to turn red, right? So now the screen is red. And that's a clear indication that I have full control with my mobile device. I have full control of this appliance. So it's almost like a remote control. I can activate anything. So one of the first things I'm going to check is a fan, because remember initially we had that fan feedback, fresh food fan feedback, sounds like a tongue twister, right? Fresh food fan feedback issue. So I'm going to find out if that fan is operating. So let's go to fans. Let me go ahead and go to the fresh food evap fan, and I'm going to turn it on high speed. So let's turn it on high speed. And I'm going to look for my status to see if it changes from off to high. And it did, which means my main control board is sending or trying to activate the fan. But guess what? We have 0 RPMs. And the 0 RPMs indicate that there's definitely a problem with this fan. It's not working. So right now, I know that it's, there's a problem in there. Let's go ahead and turn it off, and just, just for sanity purposes, let me go ahead and activate the condenser fan, right? So if I activate the condenser fan on high, I don't recall seeing an error for that, although I could be wrong. Oh, there it is. It's spinning at high speed, but it's only spinning at 450. Okay, there it is. Now it's spinning at 1626 RPMs. So you notice that when the speed was slower, the number was in red, but as soon as it went up, the numbers turned white. So if the numbers are red, that's an indication that even though the fan might be running, it's not running at the speed that it needs to run at, and of course that would be an issue. But in this case, the condenser fan seems to be working okay. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. And that is essentially how you would control the operate loads feature. Very, very simple to do. It's not difficult. Again, it's like flipping on a light switch, right? And just like I was able to activate the fans, I can pretty much activate anything here. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you with a little cup over here. Let's say that you wanted to test your water dispenser, right? And you wanted to find out if water is actually coming out from that dispenser. So we're going to go ahead and make sure all the fans are off. We're going to go back. I'm going to select, just put it in the corner here. So I'm going to select dispenser. And now we can see that we have 2 valves, the isolation water valve and the dispenser water valve. So again, we go back to full screen view over here. I'm going to activate both valves, and I should see water coming out of that and going into the cup. Let's take a look. So first, my isolation valve. So that we're going to look for the status so that it shows, instead of closed, it shows open. And now we're going to activate the dispenser water valve. Here we go. And there you can see water is going into the cup, which means I've activated both valves from my iPad over here using SmartHQ service. So let me shut this off before it floods this whole entire building. And then we're going to just simply go back here and exit service mode. So I'm not sure, I'm not going to drink this water because I don't know what the filter status is, but it's okay. So we definitely have water in there. So just like that, right? Just like magic, we were able to activate the dispenser. You can activate a circulation pump on a dishwasher, water valves, a heater, a drum motor, anything else that, of course, is on our GE appliance products. So that's operate loads. And now what I want to do is go ahead and talk about the other topic, which is post-repair functionality verification. And one of the things that we want to do as service technicians out there is we don't just want to fix the product, put in a part, and hope that it works, right? You want to have the certainty. You want to be sure, and you want to be able to test it. Just like when you go to the car mechanic, if they change your brakes or your tires, do you want them to just change them and not do a test drive? No, you want to be able to have the assurance that that mechanic, they did their due diligence, so you'll be safe. So the same thing, the customer wants you to give him that assurance that everything is working perfectly. So for that, we're going to go back over here to our PowerPoint presentation and talk about the diagnostic tests. Now, the diagnostic test is not only going to check one component, but it's actually going to check multiple components of a subsystem. So in the case of refrigerators, for example, we can check the sealed system, we can check the defrost system, right? We can activate the heaters, or the entire ice maker, right? Not just one part of the ice maker, but everything, the rake motor, the heater, the water valves, all of that. So if we take an example of a cooling test, right? Just for this particular training, If we select the cooling test, you're going to be able to activate the, first of all, you're going to be able to select which way the refrigerant is going to flow based on the position of the three-way valve. This would, of course, be in the case of a refrigerator that has a dual evaporator system. So once you do that, you simply press the compressor and condenser high-speed button, and what that will do is it will activate the compressor and fan, and as refrigerant flows through the system, you're going to see two thermistor values, which is both evaporator thermistors. They're going to begin to drop in temperature. So after a little while, in this case, it's 7 minutes, we've gone from approximately 38 degrees on the fresh food evaporator to about 7. And on the freezer evap, we've gone from about 13 to about 0 degrees. So clearly you can see that there has been a drop in temperature, and this drop in temperature will essentially tell you that refrigerant is flowing through those evaporator coils. Now, what I used to do as a technician, right, if I did a sealed system when I was doing service, to check to see if I had refrigerant, take out the food, right, from the refrigerator, pull the evaporator cover, check for a nice frost pattern, right, and that's how you know that refrigerant is going through that area. But that is so time consuming. You have to take everything out, disassemble. So with SmartHQ service, we basically tell you that this is that the sealed system is working, refrigerant is going to those areas, and of course, your thermistors are detecting a drop in temperature. So very, very easy to verify that this is working, and this works as well for, let's say, a washing machine. So you change the motor and you want to see if the basket is spinning, things like that, you can do a thorough test of that. On a dishwasher, a circulation pump, a drain pump, you can activate one of these diagnostic tests and make sure that everything is functioning the way that it should be functioning. All right, so we talked about that. Let me go ahead and show you a very quick clip of how that would take place. So
begin by setting the three-way valve to fresh food and freezer. This will ensure the refrigerant flows through both evaporators so we can check if the thermistors detect a drop in temperature. Allow 3 minutes for the pressure to stabilize. Then, click the compressor and condenser high-speed button to start the test. The status column will indicate if the condenser fan and compressor are running, as well as the position of the three-way valve. You'll also be able to monitor the ambient, fresh food evaporator, and freezer evaporator thermistor temperatures. Please take note of what these initial values are so you can see if there's a change in temperature later on. As we can see, both evaporator thermistor values have dropped significantly, confirming refrigerant is being channeled properly to those two areas. In the event that either thermistor temperature value remained unchanged, there would be a very high probability that the issue is related to the sealed system. You can further verify this by running the cooling test with the three-way valve set to freezer only. For this test to be considered successful, there would need to be a rapid temperature drop in the freezer evaporator, but the fresh food evaporator would remain the same.
all right, so there you have it. That is essentially the diagnostic test for the sealed system, right? You notice that you can see the status or the initial state of the thermistor values, and then as time goes on, you can see that they drop in temperature if, of course, refrigerant is going to that area. If you don't see a drop in temperature, maybe you have a restriction or some other issue, and of course, at that point, you would have to test your system again just to make sure that everything is working correctly. All right, so now we're going to move to our next topic, which is parts lookup, right? And with parts lookup, this is a really nice feature on the SmartHQ service app because it'll actually give you the exploded drawings of what the product that you have connected to. And let me go ahead and show you that over here on the screen. We'll sort of go back here and show you how we get to that. So if you go to the button labeled One Parts and you click on that, all the exploded drawings of this specific refrigerator that I'm connected to are going to show up. And for example, if I needed to find out what the part number is for the main control board or the ice maker or a thermistor, that is going to be easily accessible right from here. So it's taking a couple seconds to load, connecting to our, this is a cloud-based, so this is going to depend on the speed of your internet connectivity. And we're just waiting a couple seconds here. Let's refresh it. Okay, I can see that it's It's loading. There it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the compressor area over here. And if we were to zoom in, and again, this is going to be contingent upon the speed of your connection when you're out in the field. But when we zoom in, you're going to be able to see the actual component, and then we're going to be able to see the part number as well. So let's say I needed to order that compressor. Whoops, this is kind of sensitive. So then you would go to your parts list, and all the parts are displayed right then and there. Whatever part it is that you are looking for. So we were looking at the compressor. Let's see what that compressor was, number 920. That's the number associated. So if we go to the parts list, if we go to 920, you can see that the compressor part number would be displayed right there. And that is WR8. I won't read the whole number to you, but you get the idea that that's how you're going to be able to find your part numbers. Let me see if they show here. In this particular case, they don't display it, but in some refrigerators, we're actually going to give you the size, diameters, and the type of connector you need, for example, if you're doing lock ring connections. And this is really nice because if you've never done a lock ring seal system repair, when you do learn how to do it, you know, you have to get the connectors. They have to be the exact diameter. Sometimes you can get that by measuring with the vernier calipers, but SmartHQ service will give you those measurements and exactly the part number for the connection that you need for the entire seal system, including the tank, the little can of refrigerant with the exact amount of grams that you need to make that repair. So that is the parts information, my friends, in a nutshell. It's just something I wanted to go through very quickly over here because it is an available feature. And now let's go ahead and talk about our second to last feature of the day, and that is cycle history. So I want to preface this by saying that cycle history is perhaps one of the most underutilized features out there for the community that uses SmartHQ service. And that's not necessarily because the feature is bad or anything like that, but it's a little bit sometimes abstract, right? You need to be able to understand data. You need to be able to interpret what the numbers and the graphs mean so that you can utilize the app. But once you master it, it is an incredibly powerful tool because it's going to help you prevent callbacks. Specifically, for example, I'll just ask the audience, right? How many of you have gone out there with a dishwasher that has the customer is saying the dishes are coming out wet or dirty? You've seen those service calls, right? I've seen them multiple times. And in those cases, many times the customer the product is not the problem. The problem is for example, what cycle the customer is selecting, or maybe the type of detergent they're using. They're not using enough rinse, things like that. So SmartHQ service using the cycle history feature will tell you exactly how the consumer has been using that product. What about washing machines, right? Customer says that it's taking too long to finish a load. It might be because the customer is overloading, and SmartHQ service will give you that information. So let me go ahead and show you over here on the PowerPoint an example of data that I have captured on a refrigerator. This is cycle history data from just a specific unit that I was testing recently. And what you see right here is a date range from 2 days and 9 hours ago all the way to 3 days and 6 hours ago of data. But when you connect to an appliance, if the appliance has been operating, it will give you all the way back up to, I've seen up to 8 days worth of data, right? So, but again, for time purposes and just to not clutter up the PowerPoint here, we've only shown you part of the data. So what I'm going to highlight here is the temperature values. So take a look at this. You can see the exact temperature the thermistors have been reading internally at any time during those last 7 or 8 days. So I can see, for example, here that 2 days and 9 hours ago, my temperature on the fresh food, the maximum temperature in the fresh food compartment was 41 degrees. But 3 days and 1 hour ago, it spiked up to 63 degrees. So I'm thinking that maybe there's a problem there, and of course we'll have to investigate it, right? But SmartHQ service has given me that information. You'll also be able to see the number of times the customer opened the doors, when they opened it, and how long they left it open. So if the customer is leaving the door open for a long time and the refrigerator is getting warm because of that, you will know. Otherwise, the customer is not going to tell you, oh yeah, I leave the door open all the time. That's not something they're going to do. You'll also be able to see the defrost cycle or the defrost heater on time, when it is that the defrost heaters were actually activated. And that will tell you if your defrost system is working correctly or not. So speaking of which, if you're trying to do, if you're not very good with numbers, right, and you're better with a graphical view, you can actually graph all of this data. And for me personally, I like to see graphs better because it gives me a better picture of exactly what's going on. And I can see, you know, my overall temperatures. Now, again, I'm a little bit concerned with those spikes. So I want to go ahead and explain to you what they mean, right? So this is another example I took of data where I graphed my fresh food evaporator and my freezer evaporator thermistor values. So when I did this, I essentially just graphed those two specific thermistor values. And I noticed that, you know, around the spike, the temperature seems to be normal, but those spikes, 68 and 63 degrees, don't appear to be normal. Now, upon further analysis, I discovered that if we analyze the data, the fresh food thermistor temperature, keep in mind that it's the red one, and then the freezer is the yellow one. I noticed that 4 days and 22 hours ago, the temperature went up to 63 degrees on the fresh food and 68 on the freezer. But at the same time, the fresh food defrost heater turned on and the freezer defrost heater turned on, which is why the temperature went up to 63 and 68 degrees. And that means my defrost circuit is working perfectly well. But let's kind of take a step back over here, and let's say that defrost heater kicked in 23 minutes, right? But just kind of close your eyes for a second and pretend that yellow spike was not there. We had a flat line. That would be an indication that my defrost heater never turned on, right? The heater came on because the data is showing me that it went on for 23 minutes. But if that line was flat, that would mean I have an open heater, or maybe you have an open bimetal, an open thermal fuse. But now you've been pointed in the right direction. And all of this just with data, nothing crazy. So let me go ahead and show you on the iPad over here how you would gain access to that information. So you would go to your cycle history feature right over here. We go ahead and click cycle history. And again, keep in mind, this refrigerator, this is a training sample. It hasn't been running for a long time, so it shows a very short amount of data. But we're going to go ahead and graph it. So let's go ahead and select the fresh food max temperature, add it to the graph. And we'll select the fresh food minimum temperature, add it to the graph. And let's select one more. Let's select the freezer minimum temperature and add that to the graph. So if I do that and hit the graph button, I can see my data is displayed there. And of course, this is the refrigerator. We only plugged it in last night, so it doesn't really show much data, but it shows something, right? And that's essentially, I just wanted to show you that this is how you would graph the data if you wanted to do that. And you can toggle back and forth from table, which is the numbers, to graph, which is, you know, the actual graphical view. If I wanted to see if my fresh food door was left open, I can see here that it has been left open, but only for a minute. So that's not really, you know, that's not really an issue. That's not a problem at all. All right. But what I want to do now is show you very quickly an example that was sent in to us from one of our users, one of the technicians out there in the field that uses SmartHQ service. And this is a customer. She was saying that her refrigerator was warm, was hot, right? Maybe complaining about the food going bad or milk spoiling, something like that. And of course, when the technician gets to the house, there's no problem. Everything is working perfectly well. So, you know, normally if you encounter that situation, you say to the customer, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I don't know what to tell you. The fridge is working okay. I tested everything. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Everything's fine. And sometimes the customer will believe you, but sometimes they're gonna doubt, right? Because you don't really know. You're just guessing, and then that's when the callback occurs. So this is an example where the tech actually connected to that appliance, which again, when he got there was working perfectly well. But notice that 2 days and 17 hours ago, the temperature had gone all the way up to 66 degrees, right? 66 degrees is not normal for a refrigerator compartment. It should be, you know, in the 30s, something like that. But looking at the data, he also discovered that the fresh food door had been left open for 17 minutes. And because the fresh food door was open for 17 minutes, all the warm air came in. And at that point, that's why the temperature went up. But after that, if you see a couple hours later, the temperature began to drop because the door was finally closed. And the reason, again, for this warm temperature was because the door was left open. Now, with this information, the technician can very easily explain to the customer, in this case, ma'am, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the appliance. I can assure you it's working perfectly well, but the reason why the temperature went up was because you, or not you necessarily, but the door was left open. So at this point, the customer begins to think back, oh yeah, maybe I had a birthday party, the adults were outside having fun, having drinks, and the kids were going in and out of the house. Maybe one of them left the door open, and that's why the temperature went up. But again, the customer is going to be happy because, genuinely speaking, the customer does not want their product to be broken, right? They want it to be working good, but they also want you to give them a good explanation of why that is. They don't just want you to say, oh, I don't know what to tell you, or it could be this, could be that, because those uncertainties will become callbacks, redos, or whatever it is that you wish to call them. And anytime you have to send a technician out there a second time, you know how much it's costing you, right? It's very expensive to drive out to the customer's house. It's very inefficient to do that. Here's another example, very quickly. A customer that's saying that her washer is taking a long time to finish the load. And in this case, you've encountered this, right? Customer says the machine is taking forever to finish. They're not going to tell you it's taking 2 hours or 1 hour and 32 minutes. They're going to just say, oh my God, this washer is taking forever to finish the load. You'll also sometimes see that the customer says that the clothes come out wet. I'm sure you've seen that before. And in this particular case, from experience, just from being in the field, many times this has nothing to do with the product being defective. I could replace that washer with a brand new one and install it. And if the customer continues to use the washer the way that they've been using it, then they're going to continue to encounter the same situation. But when we look at the cycle history on a washing machine, you can see exactly which cycle the customer selected. You can see the cycle duration time. So you can see, if they tell you, oh, this is taking 5 hours to finish, you could say, no, I mean, that's an exaggeration. It's only taken whatever X amount of minutes. And you can also take a look at the maximum spin speed. Now, this is a very important parameter, the maximum spin speed, because in the event that you're getting clothes that are coming out wet, when the basket is spinning, it has to reach a certain speed in order to basically spin out the clothes, right? And SmartHQ service will tell you on any given cycle, for example, on cycle number 54, the towels cycle, the expected target speed is 1300 RPMs. And in this particular example, the target was, or the speed that was reached was 1311 RPMs. So there's no way you could tell me that those towels came out wet. Those towels were spun out at the target RPM speed. So they should have come out dry, right? So that's essentially how you can use this data. And of course, you can also graph it, but in the case of washing machines, it's probably better than numerical data. Now, take a look at this example, right? Customer was saying that the normal cycle, and for those of you that may not be familiar with GE front-load washers, a normal cycle typically takes 55 minutes. So the normal cycle was, in this case, took 85 minutes to complete. Now, to a working parent, right, that has to take their kids to soccer practice, ballet, art class, whatever, those extra 30 minutes are an eternity. And you definitely want, you'll definitely question the functionality of the machine if it's taking that long to finish the load. However, if we look at the data over here, the technician sent us is, yes, the cycle duration time was 85 minutes, but also there were 4 out of balance redistribution events. So SmartHQ service will tell you if the unit went out of balance and tried to balance itself out, and how many times. So in this case, more than likely the customer overloaded the washer and they selected the normal cycle, or maybe they put in towels or their bed, their 2 king comforters that they wanted to wash. And of course, that's why this cycle took longer to finish than normal. But again, with this information on hand, you can explain to the customer, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, there's no problem. Can you tell me maybe what was the last load of laundry you did? Did you do clothes? And they might say, oh, I did my beach towels. And then you could say, okay, bingo, that's the problem right there. You need to select towels if you're going to do towels. And you'll also be able to see how many gallons of water, if you look at the data below, you can see how many gallons of water went in to see if they overloaded, because the more clothes they put in there, the more water that is also going to go into the machine. You can see things like suds, if there was excessive sudsing, which sometimes can cause extended cycle times. So all of this information is available to you on the SmartHQ service app. Now, let's go ahead and talk about our final product, because we only have a few minutes left of the live broadcast training. So the last feature here that we're going to talk about today is going to be the firmware update feature. So again, as I mentioned earlier, SmartHQ service will immediately alert you. As soon as you connect to the appliance, it is going to tell you if there is a firmware update available on this particular machine when you open up the dashboard screen. Now, firmware updates will typically help resolve software-related issues in a single service visit. And I want to emphasize that, okay, to everyone here, and everyone that's on our virtual audience. Improving your first-time completion rate is the best way that you can reduce your operating costs, right? And that mathematical certainty will make you much, much more profitable. So think about it, right? Let's say that you have a dead dishwasher, a dishwasher that just, customers pushing the buttons and nothing works. And you go out there and you change a bunch of boards or do whatever you need to do. And maybe you have to go a second time or things like that. What if there was an update, almost like a magic wand that you could wave at that machine, right? Let's kind of make that analogy, so that it works on the first time you go out to the customer's home. That would be an incredible thing. And that's precisely what the firmware update feature does. It helps you be able to resolve these software-related issues that could potentially fix a real problem the customer is experiencing. So for that, obviously, we are not only going to tell you that there's an update available, but in the service documentation, you will be able to see if there are bulletins, right? Service bulletins that call for a firmware update. This example that we're showing right here is a false hot water error that is present on a refrigerator. And you might be thinking, all right, so let's say on this refrigerator, right, this GE profile, it doesn't have that Keurig hot water heater. And let's say this fridge is giving me a false or a hot water error code. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Where's a hot water heater on this? So, I'm going to call for service and say, hey, Mr. Technician, my fridge is telling me that my hot water has a problem. So the tech might go out there and also be puzzled, like, what is that? There's no hot water heater. But if you look at the PowerPoint over here, this is a software bug, right? And all you need to do to fix it is just perform a firmware update, and that'll take care of it. Now, that's a minor thing, because that's, that error is not going to cause any problems with the appliance. But how about this one, right? This is the example I was talking about earlier, a dishwasher that the customer presses the keypad and it doesn't respond. So essentially the dishwasher is dead. And maybe the customer goes and turns the breaker off, turns it back on, and still dead washing machine. So as a technician, all right, for this particular symptom, the first thing I'm going for is the display board. I'm going to change that out, the user interface, and see if maybe that fixes it. If that doesn't fix it, guess what? I'm going to replace the main board. So now I have replaced two parts. And let's say that doesn't take care of it. The third part will be the communication between the two, which is the harness. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of parts, time, and money wasted. And maybe you have to come back 2 or 3 times to get multiple parts. So if we go back to this screen over here, you can clearly see that this service bulletin calls for a firmware update, but it asks you to order the GE SUM module, the software update module. So again, this would require 2 service visits. But using the software or the firmware update feature on SmartHQ service, you can eliminate the need for that software update module, and you eliminate the need to replace a board, or in some cases, multiple boards on the appliance, which is going to make your job a lot easier. So again, with a firmware update, you'll be able to take care of that very, very easily. So to show you how the update takes place, we are going to actually show you a quick clip, but the first thing I want to do is I just want to go back to the screen over here and show you from scratch, right, how this would take place, how you would know, what the problem, or if it needs an update or not. Sorry. So again, for time purposes, I've connected my Bluetooth module to the appliance, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the app from the screen over here. So open the app. When the app loads, you will get, it will start retrieving the information that's on the appliance. So this is in real time. Okay, what I'm showing right here is not a video clip. This is actually what you would encounter when you connect to an appliance in a customer's home. So right now it's connected to that device, Navy Beam, and it is pulling all the data from the refrigerator's main control board. The Navy Beam is what we call this this Bluetooth module, in case you were wondering what that means. So it's loading all of my data. Almost there. There it is. And again, the dashboard screen will be the first thing that pops up. This is what you'll always see when you connect to either washer, dryer, dishwasher, whatever it is you're connected to. And if there's a firmware update, it will immediately populate with a little yellow triangle. So there it is. The firmware update is available. And if you wanted to actually conduct the update, you need to press the button. And below the start key, you're going to get all the information related to that update, right? What is that update going to do? Now, I would highly recommend that you keep this information to yourself. The customer doesn't need to know what this update is going to do. This is for you only to know, but it's going to tell you what boards are going to be updated, what the update will essentially do. And again, look at your service bulletins, because a lot of service bulletins out there call for a firmware update. I'll give you a quick example. There is a service bulletin where you have to replace the fan on the evaporator area. And in order for that fan to function correctly, you have to update the board, the firmware update on the board, to be able to control that fan efficiently. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So in that case, that service bulletin that tells you to replace the hardware, the fan, is useless unless you conduct a firmware update. So that being said, if I wanted to actually do the update on this unit, I would simply hit start, then hold down the yes key, and at this point, my update will take place, all right? So let me go ahead and show you here on the PowerPoint, because we do have a quick clip of how that takes place. Take a look.
From the dashboard screen, click Next. Click the firmware update button, and details about the update will populate on your screen. Click Start. Press and hold Yes for 3 seconds to confirm you'd like to start the update. SmartHQ service will automatically update both boards 1 and 2. Upon successful completion, you will see this confirmation message. Now, simply click Done, and you're all set.
All right, so there you have it. That is how simple it is to conduct the update. Now, for those of you that are wondering, does it really take that short amount of time? It doesn't, okay? For time purposes, we time-lapse the video, but all in all, it's going to take about 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes to complete the update, and if you think about it, right, those 5 minutes, during that time, you can clean up your area, put away your tools, fill out the paperwork for the customer, and the update can be taking place in the background, and by the time that you're done with all the cleanup and everything else that you're doing, the update is done, the machine is all ready to go. So that is how you would essentially close your repair, right? You close the repair call, and that's it. You can move on to your next service call. So that, in effect, my friends, is the presentation for today. And for those of you that are in the audience, I want to thank everybody who came out today at Same Day Appliance Repair Academy USA. I want to thank Osvaldo and Caricia Marroquin for being such gracious hosts. And of course, we want to thank all of you for joining our training. So that is the end of our presentation, my friends. Again, Juan Morales here. And remember that at GE Appliances, we are not only here to help, we are here for you. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care now. Bye-bye.